Okay, how long would you wait to meet Ashley Simpson?
Limit does not exist.
Ashley,
I would give both of my arms to meet Ashley Simpson.
Same.
But when she, back in the day.
Welcome back to another episode of I Never Liked You with Matteo, Lane, and Nick Smith. And today we're talking 90s divas.
Suggested by
Macarally
from our Patreon.
From our Patreon page. So,
Fitting what you're wearing.
I'm wearing Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson is one of the top divas in the 90s, of course. Obviously, my favorite diva, Mariah Carey.
Oh.
And I
mean, she's a great one, but mine is Celine.
We had Celine, we had Whitney, we had Mariah, we had Janet, we had Madonna, we had Britney, we had Christina, we had Jessica.
Even Aretha still.
Aretha. Oh, yeah, Aretha. Yeah, but those are like the...
Well, Britney and
the ones
Christina
that sort of
and Jessica, those were early 2000s. I wouldn't
them 90s. No, they were
divas.
late 90s. Britney was late 90s and Christina was late 90s, and that's the 90s. Baby One More Time and Genie in a Bottle.
When was Baby One More Time released, Chris?
I think it was like 1998.
Really?
Yeah.
It was before 9/11.
Yes. What do you mean was before? That's where your brain went to?
Well, because 9/11 is 2001.
Right. It was before then.
January 99.
Wow.
And Christina Aguilera's
God,
Genie in a
you
Bottle
are
must have
old.
come out the same year. So
So
were you more Britney or Christina?
I was more Britney, but I loved Christina as well.
I was definitely more Christina, but I loved Britney. I liked Britney's Oops, I Did It Again album, but I was obsessed
Did you used to watch the making of the music videos?
Do you think I turned gay
And
yesterday?
the Oops, I Did It Again on the Planet and the Red jumpsuit.
Of course I remember. That was the
I
debut. I watched it. I was drawing Zapdos for a Pokemon website called Pokemon Crater, and I won with a Moltres drawing, and I beat out this kid who was clearly tracing, not me, and I entered late, and I still won, and that was a big deal for me. And then I got a bunch of Pokemon cards, and then, but I remember watching that, and then it was on TRL, they debuted the video for Oops, I Did It Again,
and
which is one of my favorite Britney songs and videos. That's a great era. That whole Lucky, this is weird.
She's so lucky.
She's
a star.
John Early does the best Britney, but I do a good Christina.
What's the Christina song where she like sort of broke out of the good girl?
Come on over. No,
Dirty.
Well, yeah, there's Dirty, but Dirty, we're in the 2000s.
But she's in the like boxing.
Yes, but we're in the 2000s
Yeah.
now. So we're thinking really clean pop Christina, which was A Genie in a Bottle, What a Girl Wants, and Come On Over. And when she had that blonde hair with the red underneath, Gay Awakening. That was my gay awakening because I just remember, and then they had the version on the album, but then Christina became very popular, so they redid the version for the music video, which they did with Britney's Crazy as well, and both music video versions are better than the album versions, right? And Christina, it would look like a Target ad, but I just remember, what a go, what a go, what a go, wow, all I want is baby.
Was the Moulin Rouge Lady Marmalade
2000s. Because I was already in high school at that point.
So let's talk about like the ultimate 90s divas, which were Mariah, Whitney, and
Mariah
Celine
wins because
Janet.
Mariah had a number one hit every single year in the 90s. More than Madonna.
She wins in terms of commercial success, I think.
And vocals and sales and Mariah
Personally,
Carey.
I think Whitney vocally is better.
I'm not saying it's a toss-up between Whitney and Mariah for me because
Now, don't get me wrong.
I can go either way.
Is my ultimate.
What about Madonna? Vocally, you don't think she can keep up with Whitney? So let me just say some other shade. Madonna said in the 90s that she'd rather be dead than sing Mariah Carey's music.
Wow.
And then when Mariah Carey was interviewed, when Mariah was at her, this is Daydream era, we're talking like peak Mariah Carey, everything. Mariah goes... They asked her about that question. She goes, "Oh, I don't know. I haven't really listened to Madonna. I listened to her when I was in high school when she used to be popular, but haven't really listened then." So I'm like, they got off at a bad start. Madonna she's not good with any diva. Her and Whitney, I don't know if her and Whitney got along, but her and Mariah didn't get along. Her and Janet didn't get
Madonna
along.
also just seems like she likes to say things
Madonna's territorial.
for a reaction.
Well, that wasn't her whole point.
Here's a good question, similar to a game that we were playing the other day. It's DivaCon. They all are in booths. It's Janet, Madonna, Mariah, Celine, Whitney. They're all in their own booth. And
We brought Whitney back.
we brought them back.
We're just in the 90s, let's say.
We're in the 90s, right.
Okay.
And
What year?
you had to
1990?
wait in line to meet one of them.
Mariah. What line would be longest? If it's in the 90s, it's Mariah. She was...
Not necessarily whose line would be longest. Whose line would you wait in line to meet Madonna?
Yeah. Okay, how many hours would I wait to meet Madonna?
There we go.
I would wait... I'd wait a solid 3.
Janet.
Madonna's a legend. Janet... Oh, I've met Janet. But would I wait in line? Okay, I would wait also 3. I love Janet Jackson.
Mariah.
I'd wait as long as Mariah needed me to wait.
Celine.
I'd wait 3. I love Celine Dion, but I'm not crazy for
Whitney.
Celine Dion. I would wait as long as she wanted. Whitney Houston is the rarest form of an artist because she's everything. Number one, she has if arguably the greatest pop voice that's ever lived. That's just, I mean, I would say Barbra Streisand, Mariah Carey, Patti LaBelle, Aretha Franklin. They all hover around the same, but you could argue Whitney is just her tone and control
The
the
greatest
voice.
of all time.
Right. She's up there. Now, I'm saying any of them are contenders, okay? So we have that. On top of that, unbelievable stage presence, unbelievable control of an audience, the room, the energy, and also maybe one of the most beautiful women to ever
Stunning.
live. Literally, maybe one of the most beautiful women to ever live. You have all 3 of these elements. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Her national anthem is still the national anthem.
Here's what they should do with the national anthem. We're done.
Just replay hers.
Replay hers. When we were in high school, they rolled out those TVs. Just roll out the TV and let's just watch Whitney Houston and let's move on with our lives. So I would wait. Okay, how long would you wait to meet Madonna?
2 hours.
Really? For Madonna, Queen
Yes.
of Pop.
Yes.
Mariah,
2 hours.
Celine,
Days.
Whitney,
Days.
Ashley Simpson.
Limit does not exist.
I feel Ashley.
I would give both of my arms to meet Ashley Simpson.
Same. I actually would too. Now, Jessica.
But when she, back in the day, not Ashley now.
I want to meet her when she finished dyeing her hair black for the song Shadow.
Living in
The shadow of someone else's dream.
I want her walk off stage after singing that, and that's when I meet her.
I want her doing the jig at SNL when she got
Yeah,
caught
yeah,
lip
yeah.
syncing. And then she was like, I have voice nodules. And then she got booed at like some NFL game the next
Oh,
week.
Ashley. They don't make them like that
They
anymore.
don't. And Ashley was such a special
all of these
gift.
all of these women, they don't make them like that anymore. And I know you all are your Swifties or your Arianators or your
Charlie,
X
Chapel, and Sabrina,
Rowan, Steen.
But that's just just age. It's just generation.
and they're great, but like
They're amazing.
But they don't make them like.
But they also don't make them like they did. The people who are older than us would say they don't make it like they did in the 80s. And older than us, they don't make it like they did in the 70s.
I don't know.
Because they certainly don't make them like Cher.
True.
Think about the 60s. The 60s
You're
had...
not wrong.
The 60s, in the 60s, you had Aretha Franklin, Patti LaBelle, Diana Ross, Barbra Streisand, and Cher. That's crazy.
Again, you're not wrong, but what it was.
But they're actually talented?
But what it was about the 90s.
Well, the 90s,
is
here's what happened.
They were incredibly talented. They were incredibly beautiful.
There's a lot of unhealthy things going on.
Yes, they had an incredible stage. Like, there's just something about them. Like,
here's
they
what
don't
it is.
make
the
that
90s
anymore.
is coming off the 80s. The 80s is when the ballads started. You had Whitney Houston. And honestly,
It was a little bit more rock and grunge.
But when you have something, there were 2 things happening in the early 90s that made Mariah and Whitney and Celine stick out. Is because they were going against the grunge. So in the early 90s, you had Nirvana. You had the sort of like anti, big hair metal bands, all that
Right.
stuff. So everything became very grunge and very like, think Seattle, right? So then you had these few pop divas. You had Mariah, you had Whitney, and you had Celine. So for those who didn't like that, you can go to that. And then the big hair music was fading out. And then the Mariah herself actually started the Christina and the Britney, was this sort of like cleaner pop sound, and the Spice Girls in the 90s. So then you get the Backstreet Boys, you get the NSYNC, you get the 98 Degrees.
Well, the era of pop as we know it.
It started and
With
then
them.
blew up.
Right.
It exploded in the late 90s. I mean, absolutely exploded. And if you didn't like that, then you watched Korn, and then Eminem came out and stuff.
Right.
So, but the 90s was.
But I mean with like Britney and Christina and Jessica.
They seem very packaged.
That's what we know artists as of now. Where like it wasn't just about the singing. Like they were dancing, they were singing, they
weren't all dancing. Mariah wasn't. I mean,
well, Janet
Heartbreaker,
Janet was dancing
and
and singing
Janet,
all
by
of
the
that.
way, underrated because Janet Jackson was doing shit before everyone.
She was truly.
She was game changer and doesn't get the credit she deserves.
But I just mean like Britney and Christina, all that. They were like pop girlies. They are now like.
Well, Whitney established, I'm not dancing, I'm singing.
Because she didn't need to.
No. I
That's
mean,
the thing is like.
She tried in the 80s, but
right,
they
but
gave
that's
it up.
what I like. Britney is not this singer. She's an entertainer. She's a performer. So like
Right.
her act and her performance, it wasn't just about the vocals.
Certainly
like,
not.
It was all about the whole thing.
It's something
and it was
strange
like,
about Britney. Britney has that, and I don't know what it is. I mean, they call it the je ne sais quoi, but there's something, because Britney she's gorgeous, phenomenal dancer. She can sing, whatever, she can carry a tune. But there's something about Britney that she just had the it factor. Girls wanted to be her, guys wanted to have sex with her, everyone liked her music, she was likable. Because Christina Aguilera, as talented as she is, Christina, you're not likable. She doesn't come off likable. She didn't. And now Christina probably is a little more.
I think.
No, I think Christina is, and I say that not as a pejorative. I say that as a compliment because Christina was probably wanting to be more in control of her career. Hold on, let me finish this thought. And did the right thing. When you're doing the right thing, similar to Streisand, similar to Whitney, you're not totally likable. Aretha Franklin wasn't likable in a sense of like Britney Spears' bubblegum drop, but they were talented. So I say that as a compliment to Christina Aguilera because from early on, she was like, I'm doing it my way.
Well, and I do think to sort of Christina's credit that she didn't have control over is they were pitting her and Britney against each other so hard. And
Right.
Britney really was positioned and constantly talked about like as America's sweetheart, America's favorite girl. So Christina was always pitted against her as like the other.
That's right. Well, Christina obviously is just as successful, but I mean, it's like and actually it benefited both of them to have that kind of competition.
Right, they still were the it girls and like.
But
had
I agree, it's
amazing careers.
unfair. It's unfair to Christina because Christina's a different artist than Britney. But because Britney, they decided was the standard, no matter what anyone else did, they were
Right,
going
like if
against
Britney wasn't
the standard.
there, Christina probably would have been likable in America's Sweetheart and It Girl.
Well,
but
I don't think
Britney
likable
was,
is a factor. Look, Britney's likable in the sense that she was. There were a lot of people in control of her career. Where I think Christina was more like, hey, I can really sing. I'm going to be in control of my career. So when she did Stripped, which was like one of the best albums of all time, Christina was in the driver's seat. But sometimes that happens, and people don't come off likable. That's okay. You're talented. You don't have to be nice.
Unfortunately, I also think the Britney, Christina, Jessica era and everything.
Mandy.
And Mandy, when they all came on, that was sort of the downfall of pop divas as well.
It
because
exploded.
Well, not just that. Like back when Celine and Mariah and Whitney, again, there were a lot of things behind the scenes happening, but it was different. They felt sort of in control still. They sort of felt, but it came off like that. Whereas Britney, Christina, all of that, you could tell their lives, their careers, everything was being manipulated and controlled.
So was
down
Mariah's.
to the very.
I think because you're younger, you are used to them, and you think that Mariah. If you really look at Whitney in the early '80s or the mid '80s, she was super controlled, and
Well,
so was
but
Mariah.
I mean
Celine wanted to be controlled. She's
But
like, please, I don't care. I'll be singing for you.
But I mean in a very like, I don't know how to describe it, but like.
I think what I'm saying is,
Like
you're
they
not-
were being
you're-
sexualized as children, and like it was just like that's when it really it was the start of the downfall. Because
I
then
don't
we
disagree.
see
Because
all of these poor women that suffered now through.
But I'm just saying, from your point of view, you assume that Mariah wasn't.
I'm not saying that Mariah, Whitney, and Celine weren't controlled.
I'm saying they were very controlled.
Right.
And then obviously they sort of broke out. I think once Whitney did the Bodyguard album, she's like, I'm out. And once Mariah obviously did Butterfly, she's like, I'm out. And then they got out of that control. So when Mariah was coming into her sexual, we can keep talking. When Mariah was coming into her owning her sexuality, right? Because she had to wear neck this and that. You look at her in the tour, the Tokyo Dome tour, the Daydream era. She is literally dressed like the Matrix. I mean, she's in a leather long jacket. So she was in control of her sexual awakening. Where I agree with you. I think Britney was hypersexualized unfairly. And they just showed some interview with some, like, she's 17 and this, like, Dutch or whatever, this Dutch guy goes, and we're all talking about your breasts. I'm like, she's 17, you sick fuck. We were young and we didn't know. We were like, is that a fair question? I had no idea.
But that's the
right,
stuff
I agree.
that I mean was
agree.
like the downfall where now everything and every pop star, it's just being like so.
And I feel bad that Christina had to even revolt against that in her Stripped album and hypersexualize herself to own it. And I think that's an amazing thing, but at what cost? Did it come from her feeling control? Like, there's a lot of manipulation there, and it is unfair to those girls. And it's like, I don't know, that's why Miley Cyrus was kind of cool when she got out of Disney and just kind of took control and did what she wanted. I like Miley Cyrus a lot.
Well, I read an interesting interview with someone who was behind the scenes of Miley's, and they were saying everyone thinks that, what was the name of the album that Miley sort of like
it was done by
Disney? And everyone was like, she wasn't out of Disney. Mm-hmm. She was still very much in Disney, but she had so much pull at Disney at that point and was such a name that Disney was like, whatever, you can do whatever you want.
Oh, Miley! Oh, we gotta talk, Miley! Now, Chris, it sounds like you have no job! What did I say in our video? Remind him that I have no job. I have no job.
You don't fuck.
I don't fuck. Pick me. Okay, that's it. All right. Good. Look at us.
Now you guys got bonus minutes. Thank you for watching and listening to another episode of our podcast. Please like, comment, subscribe. Please leave a review. Please subscribe to our Patreon. And until next time.